Yo, what is up, guys? This is Mr. T coming at you live from NYC. Welcome back to Convos, our podcast over here at TimTalks. And hey, welcome back to another episode. So you guys have been really active lately, and I've been looking over at your comments. I've been looking over at your DMs, your PMs, and what I'm looking at is pretty good content. Like I said, there's a lot of good ideas over here, future episodes, and I thank you guys so much. Most of the inspiration that I'm getting is from you guys, and you guys are really not only making my day, but I love just having see your voices being heard over here. And like I said, I'm gonna totally respect whoever sent these. I can see some names, but like I said, I don't think we need to mention, because honestly, I think many of us can relate to these comments over here. And so this episode, what we're gonna touch base on is from this person. I don't know if it's a he or she. Sounds like it's a she just from the wording. Oh, just in case, guys, some of your comments will have some words included. And this is just because I want to make it so that people can understand what is being said. And um sometimes when I'm looking at it, I have to like insert those words just because to make it more intelligible, make it more understandable for anyone out there, right? So again, I apologize if the comment sounds a little bit different for anyone who had left this and is tuning in. um this is just because I want to make it so that other people can get the gist of what's going on over here, right? So this person, he commented this, or sorry, he or she, right? So I'm assume she. So this person said, I don't know if this went through, but I have something personal. No, I just wanted to ask. So, Mr. T, I had this huge argument with my parents about being on my devices. They said I'm on them too much, but that I need them from school. I don't get why my parents don't get tech. What do you think? Now, let's be real, guys. Raise your hand, like right now. How many of you guys use a smartphone? Raise your hand right now. Right? Now, the thing is, I don't see you guys out there, and I just want to know if you're tuning in and seeing if you guys are actually popping in to hear this, right? But raise your hand, cool. But I guarantee you that's most of you, right? Anyone who's tuning in, I mean, like, how are you watching this video? Maybe you're using a laptop, but when there's a laptop, there's a phone somewhere. You know what I mean? So if you guys are tuning in on a laptop, there's probably a phone somewhere, right? Because usually the case is you buy the phone before you buy the laptop. That's usually the case for most people, right? So anyway, back to this. So this person brought up this very real thing that's been going on with other families out there, right? So parents not wanting to call you out. I don't want to call you out, but this does tend to happen. Think back to looking at your children, right? And then looking at their devices, right? And then of course there's going to be an argument, right? Because children nowadays, the new gen nowadays, tends to be on their devices more than other people, right? And that happens. Even me, I'm gonna admit, I'm kind of guilty of that, right? Where I am on my devices. Like literally, I can count the devices that I have in my room. I have I have two smartphones. One is Samsung, one is Apple, because I love both. I'm not gonna cause a heated debate. I love both. I love both brands. Then I got my Nintendo Switch in one corner. I got my laptop over here, which I use to edit. Like I said, the only thing I edit is my soundtracks, as well as the backgrounds and all that stuff. And I do give credit to those OG creators out there who did such a wonderful job. Shout out to those two. Shout out to those people. Sorry. So, and then I also have this smart TV. I have a bunch of things over here. I'm not saying I'm spoiled. I'm just saying that there was a lot of devices that I have, and this person wanted to point that out. And like I said, I feel that having all these kinds of tech. And so he said over here, he or she said that he had this huge argument with parents, even though, right, the person probably finished their work and whatever, right? First off, there's two things here I want to talk about over here. So first off is the old gen, which is like most parents and all that stuff. Not counting teenage parents, that's totally different, right? And then the new gen, right? Now, here's the deal. What did the old gen have that the new gen have more, right? The new gen has smartphones, laptops, they have Nintendo Switches, smart TVs, all that good shiz. The old gen have something like VHS, Walkmans, no Windows 98, all those things, right? Floppy disks. If you guys don't know that, totally cool. Search that up real quick. And you get what I mean by that. So you can kind of see how it's so different, right? And of course, when things look different, you're gonna want to oppose, right? Because it's like, I don't know that. And if I don't know that, why should I care if the other person about the other person? They're different, right? So I think this is what the case is over here. So whoever this person is, whoever sent this to me, so this is probably what happened over here. So you are a new gen, right? You're a new gen, and you sent this over here, right? But like I said, if you're talking about your parents, more than likely you're probably 18 or below, or I don't know. Honestly, I'm not gonna judge, but you have all these things in your life, right? All these devices, right? But what happened probably with your parents is that sometimes parents, when they have their own lives, right? So when they have their own lives, they can't really empathize. And at that moment, sometimes parents can be bitches at that moment, right? They're not always, right? But like I said, I'm not gonna judge certain families. It can be kind of difficult. But for the in most cases, you're gonna find that the parents are gonna be okay at times and bitchy at times, right? That's gonna happen, and that's what's real in the world, right? It's the truth, right? So, what happened at that moment is most likely the parents didn't know that you finished your work or you finished whatever you needed to do, and then that parent, right, ended up getting mad at you, right? And it's not mainly because that they know the full story, right? Maybe it's just because that they want to do that. It's like a defense mechanism, kind of like that, right? So now you're asking me over here, like, what should you do in that case, right? First off, being a part of the new gen, right? Which road are we going to take? We're going to take the higher road, or are we going to follow them? Are we going to follow their example, right? And, something I want to point out about the old gen, for any of you guys out there who are the new gen, right? Let's think about the old gen real quick, right? This is what I learned, did my research. So this is what they focus on. They focus on money. The old gen focuses on money, right? Because at the time, the world was gone to heck. It was World War One, World War Two, Cold War, right? Bunch of wars, all that stuff, right? So, when all that was happening, right? There wasn't any luxury, right? It was just all about earning your keep, earning the gist, earning all the money and all that stuff, right? To want to be able to survive. And if you guys, I did my research over there, and then I also found out that this is gonna sound really sad, but it's really true that most families, they had more children because of money. I made it sound really shitty, but basically, most people, to be able to survive, because they don't know if this child is gonna survive, so they mostly had more, and then these children can help out the family, right? Now, again, that doesn't always apply to every family, right? For all you know, it's just love, getting really into that love. You know what I mean? Mother, father, having a lot of love, having a lot of babies, and it just so happened that those babies helped with the income and all that stuff, right? So that's what's happening with the old gen, right? That happened there as well. On top of that, right? They also got to do things like rebuild, try and build a life for themselves, and all those things, right? And they built everything. They had their house, they had their jobs and all that stuff, right? And totally on them. That's why most of the old gen feel like independent, kind of like those kind of things, right? That happened. Now let's talk about the new gen. Let's talk about you guys for the most part out there, right? So us, much of what we had came from them, right? What we had came from our parents and all that stuff. And even if it didn't, it came from someone else, right? All those opportunities, and we get to do things that we love, right? And so for the old gen, it tends to like breed up like this sort of jealousy, right? And that jealousy can get out of control, right? So, sometimes when we look at the old gen, sometimes I feel kind of sad because of where that envy come from, that jealousy, that hate. Where did it come from? I mean, let's think about it, guys. Would you want to go on hating someone for doing something with their lives, right? For doing something that they love, right? And I get it, right? Sometimes at the moment we feel like we're bitchy, we feel like we're evil and all that stuff, right? But what good would it do to want to hate someone else for them having get to do something that they love, right? It doesn't make sense, right? At that point. So this is what was happening here with this person, right? This person here, whoever it is out there, if you're tuning in, um what happened here is like old gen versus new gen, right? The old gen see you doing these kind of things, right? And more than likely they're tying it back to them, right? The old gen, your parents and all that stuff, they're tying it back to them, what they don't have, right? And then they get jealous, and then all those things, it comes about, and then they take it out on you, right? Whereas for us, like, we don't know what's happening, right? Just because the old gen, right, they don't want to make known, kind of quiet, those kind of things, right? And so that's probably why you really didn't get what was happening. Actually, where I got all this from was from like a psych book. As you guys know, I'm a teacher, so I got all of this from ed psych. And also I wanted to go into psych in general. Later on, want to be a doctor in that, so pray for the best for me. But tying back to that, that's where I got most of the advice from, right? The old gen sees something that the new gen have, and that envy, that jealousy comes about. It happens, right? Goes around, comes around, and it happens, right? So now you ask me, for example, what do we do about that, right? So again, cut your parents some slack, right? They don't know better, because ultimately you're gonna know more. There's another thing there called the Flynn effect. If you guys don't know what that is, the Flynn effect is basically every person, every year after that's born, they're gonna know something even more than the previous gen, right? So, like I said, we gotta cut the old gen some slack. Even I myself with my own parents, right? Because there's some things really that really hit them in the feels, right? They're getting older, right? And the new gen is getting smarter, right? So you gotta admit that, right? Sometimes it's better to feel sad than to feel angry, just to see like, why are you doing this, right? Because really the old gen, they're really having trouble just because of what's happening. And we can't really blame them, because that's life, right? Everyone gets older, and other people are gonna know more, get to do more, get to love things more, right? Have all these experiences, right? So for that person out there who was angry with their parents, feel for them, because really it's hard for them, right? It's hard for them to accept, because if they weren't taught that, how would they know, right? Those kind of things. I'm not siding on one gen or the other. I'm just saying that it did happen, right? Because lack of knowledge, right? Lack of understanding, right? And also to that person out there, going also from the old gen, right? Also feel for them that maybe they want to try and understand, right? They just don't have the time, right? Because if you're still a child, they still gotta care for you, right? They still gotta give you food, water, a roof over your head, and all that stuff, right? For better or for worse, whatever their intention is, right? You still gotta do that. So it still kind of hurts, right? Like I said before, every day, imagine that every day you're slaving away, having to do these kind of things, right? And they see you, and then you're gaming and all that stuff, and we're having the time of our lives, right? Of course it would breed some form of hate, right? And I know that we should say that it's not fair. They had us, they had you, right, as their child, right? But again, best to cut them some slack, because they just want to get that back, right? But also to forgive the old gen. But I want to point out something about you guys as part of the new gen, and any of you new gens out there, right? Millennials, Gen Z, and Gen COVID, all those things, right? I want to point out something to you real quick. No matter what anyone says, right? No matter what arguments are brought up, no matter what BS is brought up, right? Think about it carefully. You are gonna get smarter. That's the thing, right? you are gonna get smarter. You're gonna know things more than what other people are gonna know, right? And the old gen can admit that. I actually interviewed a bunch of people who are from the old gen, baby boomers, silent gen, all those people, right? And they're gonna admit that. They're gonna admit that the new gen is gonna know more. They're more experienced. So they believe that in they believe that. They believe in you guys, right? They believe in us. So that's true, right? And then, tying that back into tech, which is like the main thing I wanted to talk about, is that, tech is just one way in which we're gonna improve, right? So, what would you guys out there, right, with tech? You get to do those kind of things, experience what you love, right? Again, just forgive the old gen for what's happening, right? Because they don't know better, right? They're just trying to know, but it's kind of hard, what with balancing work and all that stuff, right? So, you know, you gotta give them some slack, but also keep in mind ourselves, love ourselves, because what the tools that we have today, right, is gonna help us, right? And many people wonder about tech, right? Is tech good or is tech bad, right? And you ask me why your parents don't get tech. It's because it really is hard, right? Tech is not always easy to touch, navigate, right? It's not as easy as a cell phone. It's not as easy as a smartphone or whatever, right? And things are getting more and more advanced, right? And it just fuels the fire, right? Old gen's getting older, new gen's getting newer, right? Those kind of things, right? So again, cut them some slack on the tech part as well, because tech is just one of those other things in which they're having trouble in, right? It's not that they hate the device. It's more of, think about it. Your parents probably hate that they can't catch up, right? Literally every time they always got to ask us, how do I Facebook? How do I Instagram? How do I YouTube? How do I Twitter? How do I TikTok? How do I do those things, right? And take that opportunity, right? Again, your parents can be bitchy at some points with tech, right? Just because that they didn't have that at that moment. But then when they want to and are willing to, don't push them out, right? So I know that this is just this one instance, this one argument, probably out of many, right, where it happened, right? But think of those opportunities where your parents want to ask you those kind of things, right? So give them that opportunity, give them that love, that respect, those kind of things, right? If they're curious, if they want to be able to do those kind of things, the things that you do, the things that you love, right? So we got to come down to that and think again, do we take the higher road and show them how tech works, or do we act like a douche and want to push them away, right? And think that they're not gonna get this, right? Is that what we want to do? Because honestly, we don't want to sound like jerks. We don't want to sound like that kind of person who sounds like a piss off, or people tell to piss off, right? So, that's the gist there, right? So, I want to just sum that up real quick, because there was a lot that was talking on. Just to sum that all up, right? Why your parents don't get tech is because of the old gen versus the new gen. Old gen's getting older, new gen's getting newer. That's a fact, right? And also, the thing about tech, it's like a very clear reminder, right? All these chargers, all these AirPods, all these whatever, right? All the tech that we have, right? It tells that old gen's getting older, new gen's getting newer, right? That's a fact as well, right? So all those things probably fuel the fire, fuel the argument, right? And another thing as well is maybe your parents didn't know how to convey it properly. Maybe they don't know, right? And we get that, right? How would you feel if you didn't have that opportunity? I remember hearing about a friend of mine who says that one of his family members is like an elderly. He didn't know how to read. And you know how the world is built on reading, right? So how would you feel about that, right? How would you feel for that person who doesn't know how to read? You feel awful. You feel like a bitch, right? For even thinking of that, right? So it's kind of like that. So, anyone out there who's a new gen and whose parents or whatever wants to know about tech, give them that opportunity. Because in the end, we're the ones to take over. The new gen's going to be the one to take over, right? They're going to take over. They're going to know what to do, right? And if everything, right, like I said, we have all the tools to want to be able to move on in life, right? Like I said in my last podcast, the last episode, right? After the pandemic, we moved on with our lives. we kept going, we kept pushing, right? And we have all the opportunities, especially when it comes down to tech, to be able to want to do things in my life. I'm gonna tell you guys right now what I'm doing with my own devices. Not only am I blogging, not only am I podcasting, not only did I start this YouTube podcast, but I also went ahead to do things to earn a life, right? I tutor young students, older students. I also went ahead to do these surveys, conduct market research for a company. That was awesome. And um, all of that thanks to tech. Literally, even the guest that we brought on here today, I will be honest, it's such a simple setup. I literally have Messenger open and then I record it through here, right? All of that, how we can bring it about is because of tech, right? And we always will ultimately have that understanding, right? When we go on in life, right? Tech is not what just defines us, but it's also what's going to be a part of us, right? And we got to respect also those of the old gen who just want to know how it works, right? They don't always say it properly. Just get that, because they're tired, they're starving, they also have other things to do, other plans, right? And there we are just whizzing away at our tech, right? And like I said before, when people are angry, they don't think on either front. Old gen, new gen, doesn't matter. When we get older, right, when we get angry, that's the point where we're not thinking, right? So that's probably also what happened here, right? So keep that in mind as well when it comes down to technology, right? It comes down to that. Always know that you always have the upper hand, right? There's always going to be that time in life where you see old gen meets new, elderly meets child, those kind of things. It's always gonna happen, right? And there's always gonna be sometimes those kinds of points of like jealousy and all that, right? Just because one has, one hasn't, right? And it's not to blame again, it's just to point out things have changed in the world, right? So the thing I want to finally end it off with the new gen is, like I said, we gotta take the higher road. I myself know that if my mom and dad ask me how to do this, I'm gonna let them know, because they're curious. They don't know, right? They don't know. I'm not gonna let the arguments of the past hit me, right? Yeah, I had arguments before, but if they're curious, I feel for them. What if someone asks you for help, right? You're gonna help them, right? Same thing if you ask help from them, right? They're gonna help you, right? In most cases, right? Like I said, so we help each other out, right? If you want to make a new gen, if you want to make a new world, kind of like that, so we gotta work together in those kind of things, right? So again, with tech, don't stop. If you got those devices, keep them, make the best use of them, right? Use them to do your work, use them to earn, use them to chat with friends, use them to game, use them to whatever, right? Use the tech that you have, the tools that you have in the world, right? Make the world better, right? And if anyone else wants to jump in on it, if anyone else wants to, like your parents, if at any opportunity, because I'm gonna tell you guys right now, there's always gonna be that time where your parents are gonna ask. Your parents are gonna ask, what is this? How do I do it, right? And be patient with them. They don't know. Same thing as how when I got my first iPhone, I didn't know how to use it. I think it was like the iPhone 5, and I'm like, I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to iPhone, right? I was always a Samsung boy, but then here I am using it now to be able to get to you guys, right? So chatting with you guys and getting all these comments down, it's where it's at, right? So again, keep in mind that all of that advice that I gave. So old gen want to learn, new gen can have the opportunity to do that, right? It just matters, are we gonna take the higher road? Are we gonna be the better person? We should, honestly, because we should be the better gen. Not only just the new gen, but the better gen. We should know that take mental health seriously, like what we're doing over here at Convos. Take that seriously. Don't take, for example, things when someone says things that are bad. Get an insight. Get an insight. Don't take it lightly, right? And the way we can do that is with tech. Tech gives us the opportunity to want to do things in life. We get to do what we love. We get to bring other people on board. Because one last thing before I end this off, finally, is that how many people that I taught people from 6 to 60. They still want to learn. They still have a chance, right? And if technology can do that, cool. Go for that, right? So again, hopefully to that person out there who had that argument with his parents, whoever it is, guy or girl, don't matter. If your parents don't get tech, you don't always have to blame them, right? You don't always have to blame them because they don't know. Just put the argument aside, because it is what it is. It happens. They just don't know, right? And always remember that you will take the higher road. You're going to be better, whoever that person is. And any of you guys out there who feel the same, who had that same argument, you're going to take the higher road. You're going to get to do what you love, right? Ultimately, just learn to tolerate, empathize with your parents, the old gen who don't know what they're doing, right? And if they are humble enough, respectful enough to want to ask you for help, do it. Take the chance. I remember so many people, elderly parents, all those people who wanted to do tech. I give them the chance. And we should do that as well, honestly. Before I end this episode off, I just want to, again, end off with this awesome soundtrack that I found over on YouTube. Again, not copyrighted. Please, YouTube, do not do anything to this. It is not copyrighted. The person said so. So again, just tune into this, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so that about wraps it up for this episode of Convos. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You probably tell I'm not consistent with how I end this, and that's completely fine. Like I said before, there's a lot of things I want to touch base on. There's a lot of things I want to talk about. There's a lot of things I want to do. There's so many things I want to do, but really, this is fun. This is literally fun because I literally get to see you guys out there in life wanting to know about things, and I pray that I'm able to help you guys out there in the world. And we touch base on a lot of things: the new gen, pandemic. Right now, we touched on tech, and it is good. Like I said, ultimately, it's good because like I said, with the pandemic, it helped bring people together, right? People had to adapt. People had to learn how to use them, old and new. They had to know how to Zoom, how to Facebook, all those things, right? So we had all those things there. So again, tech is always going to be good in the world. It's always going to be able to help us. And if other people want to jump in on it, let's help them out. Old gen, new gen, whoever wants to know, right? Let's jump in on them, let's help them out, and hope for the best for them, right? Because, people who are more knowledgeable, more informed, they know more, they're going to know how to make good decisions, right? And when I say informed, not like a corrupt way, I mean like more of morally, those kind of things, right? If you know how to use those kind of things, you know how to use tech properly, we know how to talk with people properly, we know what's good and what's bad and all those things, that's where we go from there, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I remember I saw this comment before, like, is that really your voice? Like from a friend. And then I said, yeah, that's my voice. But in any case, that's just a random thought that I had. Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please let me know what you feel about this episode. Please comment or DM me down below if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any comments, if you guys have anything that you want me to jump in on and put for the next episode, hit me up. I got you guys. So that's it. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please like, share, sub, much love, and I'll see you at the next episode. This is Mr. T over here at NYC signing off. Much love, and I'll see you guys at the next episode. Peace.